happy to be back on your ship.
Come with me to the chocolate and liquor tasting aboard the Disney Wonder.
Very familiar faces in the corner. Excellent. Well, so a lot of you doing it for the first time. You certainly are in for a treat. This is a really fun one. I mean, there's a lot of variety. As you look down at your tables, you can see there's quite a bit going on, right? So on your left, we'd start with some bubbles, some champagne, of course, a rosé champagne. Following that would be a red wine from Sonoma, a blend. Next is a port wine, a really interesting fortified wine from Portugal, not Portland. Somebody said Portland the other day. I was quite alarmed at how literal they took that name. But and then lastly, some hot stuff, a bit of whiskey. Not any old whiskey though. This is not your average run-of-the-mill. This is something quite special and highly regarded. It's the Glenmorangie Signet, which is a 30-year-old single malt Scotch. So you can expect a whiskey of some character. You know, who's a bit scared of whiskey? Who's a bit apprehensive? Yeah? Don't be afraid, because really it should be one that's really smooth, really charismatic, and certainly very, very interesting and expressive. And of course, this will all be paired with one of the most sought after and revered chocolates of the world, Valrhona chocolate, which is from France. An absolutely beautiful start, right? Yes. Yeah, this is the Taittinger Rosé. Gorgeous champagne. You know, champagne is certainly a sparkling wine that really is fairly distinctive, one of the most distinctive and unique wines of the world. And it really exudes elegance. It's a wine for any occasion. And we are going to pair it shortly, but just a word on champagne for a moment. Do you know that it happened by accident? We're chocolatiers, you see. All right, so the Taittinger Rosé, as opposed to its counterpart, the golden champagne. And rosés are generally, a better pairing with those big, rich, even meaty dishes. You get to experience so much more. So some of you already have, I haven't. Let's take a sip. Beautifully balanced, right? Really quite soft, very smooth, nice and firm, nice and big, but those tannins are not aggressive. They are really plush. This is done fairly early on, because remember, throughout fermentation, the yeast is converting the sugar to alcohol. We're about to have a sweet wine. So they had to retain that sweetness. They couldn't do it at the end when all the sugar had already been converted, but instead fairly early on. But there's a catch. You've got to extract as much color, tannin, and flavor as quickly as possible before you lose that sugar. Hence the idea of foot treading. You ever heard that concept of stomping on the grapes? It's still done in Portugal today because of that. However, most winemakers, thankfully, have now opted to use machinery that mimics foot treading, but there's still some who stick to that tradition. So this allows them to extract all that they need as quickly as possible without crushing the seeds in the grapes. Because as you crush those seeds, you now release these unwanted bitter oils into the wine. Very unpleasant. All right, so we notice that the color is fairly light in comparison to that red wine we just had. You see those brown shades in the glass? So let's take a sniff and see what we experience. It's interesting, don't you think? My oh my. So is that a thumbs up? Yeah? Lovely pairing. Beautiful pairing. And what we've just done is we've done a pairing with a concept of mirroring. We've taken similarities in the food and the wine and paired them alongside one another. We've paired like with like. And it's this concept that you can use with you know, any food and wine pairings. Some other examples would be move it along slowly. Did you notice a difference? I feel there's a huge difference. All right, so of course you got to do whatever comes naturally to you, but to those of you who are a bit concerned or apprehensive, I'll tell you what I would do. I'd take a sip, and again, it's not a baby sip, it's a real one. You don't need to swirl it around the way you would a wine.
Okay, so the whiskey was a bit much for me, but it wasn't too bad when I did coat my tongue with the dark chocolate as directed by our cast member.
Not? Are you sure? Yes, ma'am.
Maybe I'm remembering wrong, but isn't there something about the chocolate and the Parmesan going together?
That's optional. But yeah, in the past, you know, some people like to kind of dip that cheese into the chocolate.
I just wanted to ask before I did it.
Go for it if you like.
This was just a snippet of my chocolate and liquor tasting experience aboard the Disney Wonder. It was a great value at only $38 during my sailing. I really enjoyed this experience. It was my first chocolate and liquor tasting anywhere. Then go ahead and comment and let me know if you've done a chocolate and liquor tasting on Disney Cruise Line, any cruise line, or anywhere. I highly recommend it, and I thank you so much for watching. Have a fantastic day.